it. This is our first thing we all do it. What are we doing?
Oh, what a mess.
This is Neil Schneider from Meant to Be Seen. Welcome to my messy basement. Woo! Anyway, I know I should have done this a really long time ago. I thought, hey, you know what? Maybe this is a good opportunity to get back to our roots a little bit. In this show, we're going to have interviews. We're going to do product reviews. I'm going to rant once in a while, probably more often than many people would like. C'est la vie. Lots of fun things to come. I'm really excited about this. So, here's my rant for the day. And I don't know if you'd call it a rant. I just have some ideas to share, an opinion to share, see what you think. I've been thinking about virtual reality and the image of virtual reality, and I'm wondering if it's all wrong. Is the imagery of the hardware hurting the market? Are we undermining the market, not based on how people experience the technology, but how the technology looks? Check out these respected market leaders. I've never seen them photographed wearing a head-mounted display. Dr. Richard Marks, Sony. Simon Benson, Sony. Shuhei Yoshida, Sony. Chet Faloshek, Valve. Gabe Newell, Valve. Okay, if Gabe wants to be photographed wearing a head-mounted display, I'm not going to get in his way. I don't recommend you doing that either. Phil Chen, HTC. Raymond Powell, HTC. Roy Taylor, AMD. Daryl Sartain, AMD. Jason Paul, NVIDIA. Neil Trevitt, NVIDIA. John Gaeta, ILM XLab. Okay, John gets a pass. No matter what he does, somehow he makes it look cool. He's the exception to the rule. So John Gaeta, if he wants to be photographed wearing a head-mounted display, he's got my blessing. Okay, all of these, and of course there are more, huge advocates for virtual reality. And yet they're not wearing a head-mounted display. Why do you think that is? Now, in contrast, this is the imagery put out by the bloggers, the media, and of course the marketing material. Everyone involved in this field, of course, they're very passionate people. They know their stuff. And yet imagery like this, in my opinion, it's appealing to the smallest part of a much larger audience. And I really think that immersive technology and virtual reality, it really does have to appeal to that much larger audience. Now, I want to make sure that no one feels insulted by this. I mean, check out this guy. I'm guilty as charged. In the 3D days, I was photographed with all kinds of geeky, dorky looking, 3D glasses. Now, I didn't care because I, for one, I love the technology. I love the way stereoscopic 3D looks. The same with VR. However, if we look back at those 3D days, despite, as impressed as people were with the 3D technology and how the experiences work, it's the 3D glasses that stuck out in the media and amongst consumers and so on. And I think virtual reality has a similar vulnerability. Need more proof? Well, there was one industry exception that it was just an off chance request to get a photograph wearing the head-mounted display. It was probably just intended for a little bit of fun, and it turned out to be a media nightmare. I mean, sure, Oculus and of course Palmer Luckey took it in stride, but I joke that I would compare this to a joke in the movie Tropic Thunder, which by the way you should see. It's a great movie where Palmer literally went full lawnmower, and it didn't go as planned, and we haven't seen any of that since. This is a working example of having to be cautious with this type of imagery. So again, I just want to underscore that to break out of this, I'll call it a tiny community because at this stage I think it is. I think we've got to throw this imagery out. Now, I know this isn't a black or white issue because, of course, how could you avoid showing the technology? I mean, obviously, it's going to appear every so often. I just think that we need to find creative ways to express the benefits of the technology so that, seeing how it works or what it looks like doesn't distract from everything and the coolness that immersive tech has to offer. So, I would underscore that VR is the product you should experience but rarely see. Okay, I'll repeat that. VR is the product you should experience but rarely see. So bloggers, enthusiasts, advocates, marketers, how do we go about hiding our head-mounted displays? I mean, I'm really interested in seeing creative ideas on promoting the benefits and expressing the benefits of virtual reality and immersive technology without getting caught up in what the technology looks like or what people look like when they're using the tech. Because I think it takes the coolness away, and it really is very cool stuff, and I think that's what should be focused on. So on that note, I'd like to send out a big kudos to Valve and HTC because they seem to get it. They recently shared a demo video where it was in a green room, and the idea was that they could have someone wearing a head-mounted display, but other people in the room could get an idea through a green screen and some special effects what that person was experiencing in VR, even though they weren't wearing a head-mounted display themselves. And more than that, it was a video that went viral, that was easy to spread around to talk about the benefits of VR. So that was, in my opinion, huge, very creative idea. Also, HTC is going to be showing the HTC Vive at Microsoft and GameStop stores. So again, it's not just about seeing the technology, it's more about experiencing the technology. And that's what's most important, because unless you really experience virtual reality and immersive tech, I don't think a lot of people are going to get it. And this is a huge victory for the HTC and Valve team that they're able to do this. So again, VR is a product you should experience, but rarely see. So next up, we've got our interview with Bertrand Neveu, CEO of Vervana. Vervana are the makers of the upcoming Totem head-mounted display. Very cool stuff, because it's not just virtual reality, it's augmented reality as well. And they've got some wonderful developments, so we'll talk to Bertrand very shortly. I'm really looking forward to inviting a lot of wonderful people here. To my immediate left is none other than Bertrand Neveu, who's CEO of Vervana. Welcome to my basement, Bertrand.
Thank you. Pretty cool basement.
Now, just Bertrand, just so you know, it's largely because of you that we're doing this program. Because I had the luxury of interviewing you at GDC. And literally when I got back from the show, I'm working to encode the videos, and I'm like, holy cow, my SD card got completely corrupted. And I lost a lot of really good interviews, including yours. And then this idea hit us, and hey, I know it's great to travel. I really look forward to meeting people and seeing all kinds of exciting technology. But maybe it's time we turn the tables and invite people this way for a change. So welcome to my messy basement, Bertrand. And I want to hear everything that's cooking at Vervana. Now, I know, I'm sorry for interrupting you there. I know we interviewed you back at CES. Maybe we could give the viewers a bit of a refresher course on Vervana's history, and then we could talk about your latest really awesome developments.
Sounds fine to me.
So tell us, you date back a couple of years now, actually earlier than that. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your early history?
Yeah, we turned 11 years this year. It's pretty scary stuff. So let's say hardcore gamer at heart, started with the ColecoVision and also early adopter, lying to try any new technology and see how they perform, how the technology can improve our lives. So big Kickstarter user. This is why I bought the Pebble and everything. So I think that the mix of early adopter, hardcore gamer made the inception for Vervana, which was called True Player Gear back then. Started with the announcement of Xbox 360. So I said to myself, back then the console were pushing the limits on the GPU side. So I said, okay, it's going to be the first platform to be able to do virtual reality. So me and a couple guys started to learn about the technology behind HMDs, how to make them immersive, low latency and everything. I think the technology was not there back then, but I think 3-4 years ago with the smartphone industry and all that, it really accelerated. and we always thought that having onboard cameras since so our first patent was filed in 2010, and already we included cameras in that patent. So it's interesting to see that from the get-go we were already thinking about mixed reality.
Okay, wonderful stuff. So you had an early Kickstarter. When was your first Kickstarter?
Yeah, so the Kickstarter was done for my birthday in 2014. So September 16, 2014. So was about a year and a half ago, and it was for a previous generation where we had cameras, but it was not meant for augmented reality. It was really meant for inside-out positional tracking. Then with the Kickstarter, we got amazing feedback. People really wanted mixed reality, so we decided, okay, let's work on mixed reality to the fullest. So we redesigned everything, optimized for mixed reality, and this is what we showed at E3 last year, and now we're pushing like crazy to show our new generation at SVVR in 2 weeks now. So it's going to be lots of long nights.
Getting ready.
Yeah.
Well, let's compare the previous generation. I saw your newest stuff at GDC. Very impressive. But I think it's so important to talk about where you came from, like what the previous generation was like, which in itself was quite good, and how far you've come. So when you originally did that Kickstarter, maybe you could talk a little bit about the product highlights. What made the HMD special in those days?
So it was 1080p OLED with a full RGB stripe instead of the good old Pental pattern. So we were reducing the screen door with a better screen, and we had 1080p cameras, stereo cameras, so easy to do pass-through, but we couldn't bring back the feed to the PC because it was USB 2. So the bandwidth was not sufficient enough for a great AR, VR mixed reality experience. So we went back to the drawer boards and we added USB 3, pump up the resolution to 1440. Same thing for the cameras. So that's pretty much the evolution between the Kickstarter and this version, is that we pump up the resolution. We went low persistence OLED, higher resolution for the cameras, and we have pretty amazing augmented reality at 120 degrees field of view, which is really what people didn't see yet in their lives. So we show great VR, and people are still impressed by our VR experience. People say, okay, beside Sony, HTC, and Oculus, you're the only one who can do great VR that I've seen so far. But then when we show the augmented reality part, they just go, wow, okay, this is really amazing. You can see a really big object that's solid. So most of the AR experience, you'll see like a kind of a ghosty object because they project photon on a semi-transparent surface. So the object is not really opaque, and your brain will know it's not real. But since we use cameras and we can make the object really great, when I do demos, and we have one with a Centurion with a big I only have the word in French.
We'll say it in French.
Sword. Sorry, in épée, yeah. A big sword. If I take the figurine and I take that and I poke them with the sword, it's instantly they go back, they don't like it. It's because even though they know the object is not real, your brain, because the image feed is fast enough and the image quality is great, then your brain will automatically, subconsciously be on the defensive, and the feeling is pretty strong. When I did this the first time, I was like, oh, my brain really doesn't like it. It's like presence, you know. I don't know if you saw that cat rescue video on the Vibe. You know, when you see people, you're like a bit laughing at them because you say, well, of course it's not real. Just walk on the plank. But when you wear it and your brain see the image, there are low latency, low persistence. It's
very convincing.
It's very convincing.
Well, okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about the device. By the way, I was able to try your workout at GDC, and I wholeheartedly, very impressive stuff. I mean, I was expecting, you know, when I tried on, I'd see, of course, the low persistence display, which of course is an achievement. Congratulations for that. However, I was not anticipating the augmented reality experience. I always knew you had the stereoscopic cameras in the front, and I was expecting it to be all about, you know, virtual reality. But it was a pleasant surprise that you took out this pamphlet book and you flip page to page, and of course you see these digital objects appear in that book. And what was really neat about it is you could move the book at different angles and different positions, and the the totem HMD. You're still calling it the totem?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the totem was able to, you know, capture all that directional or positional information. Mm-hmm. Very, very impressive stuff. I mean, do you see, as far as how you're positioning the product, originally it was very much all about virtual reality. Obviously, augmented reality is coming into play now.
Yeah.
Do you have a preference between the two, you know, divisions of immersive tech? Where are your priorities now?
Well, I'm a hardcore gamer, so gaming is still deeply entrenched in me. And I think VR is really ready for prime time. It's getting more mature and mature, and the content is there. You know, it was Timpetep posted a couple days ago. I just received the Oculus and the HoloLens. Which one should I go for? And I said definitely the Oculus, because it's much more fun, much more ready for prime time. So I know that augmented reality in the long run will really be more useful than VR. I think VR is great, but most of the time of the day, you know, you'll be in the real world. It will not be like 12-hour a day in VR. So maybe you'll do VR a couple hours per day, and for 10 hours you could be in augmented reality and enhance your productivity at work. Instead of having two screens on your desk, you could wear glasses with infinite screens and kind of a virtual desktop. And I think there's much more potential for augmented reality. But you know, playing and feeling inside the game is the reason why I started this long adventure. So it will always be part of me.
Now, this is pretty complex hardware that you're building here. It's not, you know, it started complex enough to actually create the head-mounted display in the first place with the optics and the screen and you know, obviously the SDK and the whole thing. But I wonder, I mean, you also have processors built into the HMD itself, which I think is unique compared to the other options out there. Maybe you could talk about that.
Yeah, so we have a strong computer vision and signal processing background. We're 15 people. So you said, yeah, it's getting more complex, but it's good because we started with VR, which I think is simpler than AR. Mastered that part, so we started designing our own optics like 5 years ago. I strongly believe that our optics are the best on the market for different reasons. I think Oculus optics are phenomenal, but the field of view is limited, and the cost is pretty prohibitive to make. Our approach is a bit a combination of Oculus and HTC. So HTC, they have, I know Oculus 2 use Fresnel, but I think we have the best of both worlds, meaning it's not too expensive to make. We have a wide field of view, 120 degrees, great performance, no stray light effects like HTC. I was doing a demo yesterday, which at GTC. So I just spoke at GTC 2 days ago, and I was at the HP booth, and I tried a demo on the HTC. And you know, when you have a black background with text, the stray light effect is pretty bad. You'll see like, it was yesterday. I tried the Disney demo that they showed at GDC, and at the beginning you see in a far away galaxy all that great stuff. So you see space. So it's black with some stars, and you have the controller in your hands, which is like a kind of R2D2 repair tool.
Yeah.
And like by default, you'll leave it down, so it's at the edge of your field of view, and it's getting annoying. So it's a white repair tool that's really low in your field of view. And while you read the text, that's like yellow and black, you just see that stray light effects of white things coming from down. So that really struck me. I think they really need to improve that. I don't know if they're going to ship those optics with their final consumer version, but if they see that video and they want to license their optics, we're open to that. So you need to do layers and layers of complexity. So started with the optics, and then mastering the low persistence screen, and then the positional tracking. We take a really complicated approach with inside-out positional tracking. And then once you put the building blocks for that, the next step is adding augmented reality. And that happened like 5 months ago in October for a virtual reality show for Volkswagen. We just say, okay, let's do a proof of concept for them that we can do augmented reality. So we took the path of least resistance, just tracking a QR code and showing a virtual object on it. And that was really, I think, the breakthrough moment for us, because for the first time we could show really what we were made of, and our hardware is really efficient at doing augmented reality and really immersive. And since then, I've been showing the totem to a lot of experts in the field, and we got a lot of recognition, especially from Jesse Schell, who used to run the VR department at Disney, and he made 40 predictions about the future of AR and VR, and that was unexpected. We made prediction 30 with the Google Tango.
I saw that, by the way. I saw Jesse's or another version of Jesse's presentation at GDC, and I saw the totem on his list. So congratulations on that.
Yeah. So like we were the only startup that got mentioned. So we're very proud of that.
Okay, very good stuff. So going back though, I mean, one of the unique features of your head mount display is it's got processing built within the head mount itself. So why is it there? Why is it so important?
Because if you want to do camera based, and that was part of my talk at GTC, so I think it was recorded so people can go look at my presentation where I talk about this for 25 minutes, so I'll do a quick summary. But why we need hardware acceleration is because if you want to have super fast cameras that goes directly, you have like pass-through that are that your brain will accept as real life. You need to take those two cameras on the headset, crop them, stitch them, even synchronize them, and then do the lens distortion. So the lenses, you have distortions from the camera lens and you have distortions from the display lens. So we combine them two in one pass of correction, and we do all of this in hardware. And this is why we can do great AR with cameras. All the other solutions right now, they will not use cameras because they have too much latency. And the reason they have too much latency is because they take a software approach to the problem, and we don't think it's the right way. Hardware will always be faster than software, so we take a solving approach to problems with hardware and not software.
So let's talk a little bit about the hardware that hooks up to the head mount. Now, you know HTC, Oculus. I mean, the lowest minimum spec recommended is either in the NVIDIA world is the 970 series or better, and in the AMD world is 290 series or better graphics. Plus, you've got all the CPU requirements. Now, I know this is a work in progress. Are you anticipating beefier hardware requirements to make this work? Where do you think the future is needed for graphics processing power to make the totem work? Actually, let me rephrase the question. What have you got under the hood right now when you do demos?
We have the same thing as Oculus and HTC, and the reason why is because we have higher resolution. We have 1440p. So HTC and Oculus, they have 1080 by 1200 per eye. We have 1280 times 1440 per eye. So we have a bit more resolution. So I don't think that you need to look at it as oh, you'll need a lesser graphic card. We'll be on par with the others regarding GPU needs, but I think one approach, you said, what's the approach in the future? I think one approach is that the IP we're developing could be put in silicon. So right now the GPU is like a versatile piece of silicon that can do pretty much anything you want it to do. But in the future, I think once like inside-out positional tracking is really nailed down to the last line of code, we could take that algorithm and put it directly in a graphic card to accelerate the processing. So it would leave more space for graphic rendering. So I think that's the future, and that was also in my talk at GTC. I think the future goes with building those mixed reality IP silicon block and incorporating them on a AMD and NVIDIA card, or Intel if they decide to step up their game.
Now, for Vanna, I mean, this is pretty complex, what you're showing. I mean, I was impressed at GDC, and you know I've seen a lot of stuff.
Yep.
I really like the augmented reality. It wasn't just a pleasant surprise to see it there. It was, and I mean this in a positive way, I was really pleased that it worked so well. And the question I have is, are you working towards a consumer-targeted product, or are you thinking more industrial at this point?
So we have to approach. I think our know-how and our SDK or game engine plugin. This right now we're doing a reference design for consumer. So let's face it, it's not a startup with limited resources that will be able to go against the big guys. You know, Oculus, they partner with the reason of the acquisition, I think with Facebook, it was a question of resources. On the mobile side, they go with Samsung, Valve. Like Valve could have made their own hardware. They have so much resources. But they decided to go with HTC. Why? Because doing consumer hardware at a large scale is not easy. So that's a bit the same approach we're taking. We can be the people who will help a big consumer brand to go into the mixed reality market. So we want to license a reference design to those big guys. But you mentioned the industrial enterprise side, which I think will be lower in volume at first. I strongly believe that in 2-3 years we'll be at 500,000, millions of units for enterprise. But we're not there yet. It's going to start with, 10K, 20K, 50K units per year, which is great for a startup. And that we can do by ourselves. We're able to do those quantities. And once it becomes mainstream, then we will have built our expertise internally to be able to scale it when it becomes really big volumes.
So where are you at right now? I mean, I saw this wonderful demo at GDC. I know that you've got some things to polish off before you get it out there. So what's your roadmap? Where do you want to achieve short term, and where do you want to go with this?
Okay, so that version was built last year for E3, it was. We were really hoping that hybrid cameras, so those cameras are sensitive to both color and infrared. We thought that it would be a best of both worlds kind of sensor, and we could do both hand tracking and positional tracking with them. But we found that the color reproduction is not optimal, and since you have less pixels to do because it's bigger, you need to put them back into the RGB world. So the color reproduction is not great. The resolution also, since they're 1440p and the screen is 1440p, when you do the lens distortion, it's better to have more pixels than the resolution you're trying to do. A bit like Oculus and HTC and us, when you render a game, you'll have a bigger buffer. So like 1.4 to 1.5, the resolution you're trying to do. So when you do that distortion, you don't need to interpolate too much. So the roadmap, the short term is that we're going at SVVR to show a new version, which will have 2 RGB sensor and 2 infrared sensor. So the RGB will be targeted mostly at augmented reality, and then the infrared sensor will be for inside-out positional tracking and hand tracking. And we did a lot of R&D during the last year to nail that down, and all our findings was filled a couple months ago in a patent. And we think that with that approach, we'll have the best mixed reality headset on the consumer market. So we will be able to, as I said earlier, license that reference design for consumer, and the timing to market will depend on when like if we go with a big OEM, it will depend on them on where we launch. But for the enterprise and industrial market, we'll have our fate in our own hands. So we'll validate the new version that will launch next month in the following months, and then once that we find that everything is going according to plan, we'll start mass production at the end of the year.
All right, sounds good. Well, congratulations on your continued success with this.
Thank you.
Thank you for visiting my messy basement. I hope you had a great time. I know I did. Do you have an opinion to share? If you do, by all means, share them in the MTBS forums. Is there something you want to see? Would you like to visit my messy basement virtually? By all means, email us at neilsmessybasement@mtbs3d.com. We'd love to hear from you. Love to welcome you on the program. Thank you again for watching. We'll talk again next week.